think will happen to her now?
Well, I'd like to see her work on a farm where she can relate with all the animals and the pets and the dogs and the cows and the pigs, because she can relate to animals far more than she does with people. I was not able to have any connection with her, make any eye contact. And here's the thing, it's not just me or three of us. There were over 100 employees over the 19 years that walk away with this sickened feeling, you know, about working there. As much as I loved my job as a booker and producer, I was almost relieved when I got fired, because it was like I want to take a shower. It was like a whole new dawn. So I don't feel that she has the trust anymore of the viewers.
Ellen DeGeneres was once America's sweetheart, the dancing queen of daytime television who preached kindness to millions. But behind those jazz hands and infectious smile lurked a different story entirely. Industry insiders are now whispering about potential $100 million lawsuits, while comedy legends Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld have turned her spectacular downfall into their personal roasting playground. From toxic workplace allegations to a desperate escape to England, Ellen's empire didn't just crumble, it imploded in the most Hollywood way possible. The woman who built her brand on Be Kind allegedly created a workplace so hostile that over 100 employees walked away traumatized. Sources close to the production describe a culture where staff members would literally hide in bathrooms to avoid Ellen's wrath during commercial breaks. Former employees report developing anxiety disorders and requiring therapy after working on what was supposed to be daytime television's happiest show. Now she's fled to the English countryside, claiming Trump's election victory forced her hand. But industry veterans know better. This isn't about politics. This is about a carefully constructed facade finally collapsing under the weight of truth.
The Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a bitch. And then we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a monster.
On camera, she laughed while she badgered her staff. And so all good things must end. And also the Ellen DeGeneres show. Yes, the 83-year-old entertainer just announced that the upcoming 19th season of her show will be its last. Apparently, she created a workplace more toxic than an Amazon warehouse in Chernobyl. Countless allegations surfaced last summer that the show's work environment was rife with harassment and discrimination. Following those charges, Ellen's ratings dropped faster than Kevin Spacey's pants at a boy band pool party.
What really happened behind the scenes of America's most beloved talk show? The revelations are more shocking than any celebrity interview Ellen ever conducted. We're talking about allegations of psychological manipulation so severe that grown adults would break down crying in supply closets. Former staffers describe a workplace where Ellen's mood swings determined everyone's fate, where a single misplaced coffee cup could trigger hours of verbal abuse. The contrast between her televised persona and backstage behavior was so extreme that some employees wondered if they were working for two different people. The first cracks in Ellen's perfect image appeared in 2020 when former employees began speaking out about what they called a toxic work environment. These weren't just disgruntled workers with minor complaints. These were detailed accounts of systematic intimidation, public humiliation, and a culture of fear that infected every corner of the production. One former producer described the experience as walking on eggshells for 19 years, never knowing when Ellen's mood would shift from camera-ready charm to backstage fury. The producer revealed that Ellen would often humiliate staff members in front of entire teams, using shame as her primary management tool. Multiple sources described Ellen's bizarre obsession with eye contact, or rather, the complete prohibition of it. Staff members were allegedly instructed never to look directly at Ellen unless specifically addressed, creating an atmosphere more reminiscent of a royal court than a television studio. Veterans of the show developed elaborate strategies to navigate the hallways without accidentally making eye contact, treating their workplace like a dangerous minefield where one wrong glance could end careers.
DeGeneres bails for the UK. All right, I'm gonna go to you first, Kat, because this is such a, I think you understand this story. So Ellen and her wife, Portia, have left their millionaire haven of Montecito for England. Now, they're saying they'll never come back in the wake of Trump's win. Do you think that's the reason why she's leaving?
Absolutely not.
It's like a beautiful name, Isis.
Ellen's rough. That's
Ellen
a
is
rough
like
one.
an old,
But it's a rough one now.
It's a rough one now because she was running Abu Ghraib in the back of her show. That's a rough one. She's out there dancing with Kristen Bell, and in the back, there's people that are getting up on the rack like this.
It's so weird when you see, like, a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that's people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems forced.
The allegations painted a picture of a woman who demanded absolute control while maintaining plausible deniability. Staff members reported being berated for minor infractions, subjected to impossible standards, and treated as disposable props in Ellen's carefully choreographed world. Former employees described incidents where Ellen would publicly mock crew members' appearances, family situations, or personal struggles during pre-show meetings. The contrast between her on-screen persona and behind-the-scenes behavior became so stark that employees developed strategies to avoid her during commercial breaks. What made it worse was the gaslighting. Anyone who complained was told they were lucky to work for such a beloved figure. Ellen's inner circle would dismiss concerns by reminding critics that they were part of television history, that millions of people would kill for their positions. This psychological manipulation kept employees trapped in cycles of abuse, constantly questioning their own perceptions while being grateful for the privilege of suffering in silence. But the real bombshell came when the allegations escalated beyond Ellen herself to her inner circle of producers. Multiple former employees came forward with accusations of sexual misconduct, harassment, and abuse of power that went far beyond typical workplace dysfunction. Executive producer Kevin Lehman faced over 10 separate allegations ranging from inappropriate touching to creating a sexually hostile environment. These weren't isolated incidents. They represented a pattern of behavior that had been enabled and protected for years by a system designed to silence victims.
Told the Today Show, home of Matt Lauer, that the bad press actually had nothing to do with her decision. Right, and the Titanic didn't hit an iceberg, it chose to sink.
If it was why I was quitting, I would have not come back this year. I really did think about not coming back because it did, you know, I mean, it was devastating. I am a kind person. I am a person who likes to make people happy.
No, the real reason, she says, is it was just too easy. Telling the Hollywood Reporter, quote, when you're a creative person, you constantly need to be challenged. And as great as this show is, and as fun as it is, it's just not a challenge anymore. Well, if that's true, here's an idea. When your viewership is down to 43%, why not consider that the challenge?
Have they made progress with this strike?
They're picketing right now, so I think it's the early stages. I would think it might take a little bit with this one.
When someone crosses the writer strike, that's some dirty shit. They cross the picket line.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody doing that yet.
I think Ellen did. I had a buddy of mine who was writing on Ellen. Everybody kind of knows now what she's really all about. And that's another one of those. Like, press. I'm so nice and I'm so sweet. Being behind the scenes.
The producer scandal revealed disturbing details about how power was wielded behind the scenes. Lehman allegedly used his position to coerce employees into compromising situations, threatening career destruction for anyone who resisted his advances. Female employees described a workplace where sexual harassment was normalized, where reporting misconduct meant career suicide, and where Ellen's trusted lieutenants operated with complete impunity. The scope of the allegations was staggering, spanning nearly 2 decades of systematic abuse. What made these revelations particularly damning was the detailed nature of the accusations. Victims provided specific dates, locations, and witness testimonies that painted a comprehensive picture of predatory behavior. Former employees described elaborate schemes where Lehman would isolate vulnerable staff members, create situations where physical contact was normalized, and gradually escalate inappropriate behavior. The pattern was so consistent across multiple accusers that it suggested a calculated system of abuse rather than spontaneous misconduct. The producer scandal revealed the true scope of the show's problems. While Ellen maintained she was unaware of the misconduct, critics pointed out that such widespread abuse couldn't exist without tacit approval from the top. Former employees revealed that Ellen was notorious for knowing every detail of her production, making her claims of ignorance seem deliberately dishonest. The show's HR department was either non-existent or complicit, leaving vulnerable employees with no recourse except to endure or quit. When the dam finally burst, the flood of allegations was so overwhelming that even Ellen's most loyal supporters began distancing themselves.
Stephen Paddock, and do not ask me for sources, but Stephen Paddock.
Who's that?
He was the guy that shot up the Vegas concert. That was a very tragic thing. Listen to this. The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock alive, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed in the beginning? Ellen.
Really?
Weird. And then they went on, if you could find that clip, they went on with a weird like diagram of how it happened, and Ellen's like showing the people how it happened. Not like an emotional like how are you feeling, how are you holding up. It was a weird diagram of like, and then he went to the left and to the right. It was very strange.
And Ellen got canceled for real a few years ago from just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a single comment she said or something she did, just lots of people saying that working for her was a living nightmare and that she's a jerk. And I think that's probably why she wants to leave, because she hasn't really been able to make a comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, remember how everybody loved Ellen? They're like, Ellen, we love you. Ellen's here, yay. And then that all went away. So she probably has been thinking of a reason to leave, and now she thinks that this is the reason to try to make it look like some sort of, look how afraid I am. I feel how you feel because I'm, you know, of Trump.
Yeah, it was just the excuse. She is, Emily, I watched her comedy special. It was like a huge pity party. It was about how she was lamenting how her reputation has suffered. She's essentially as popular as a pit bull with monkeypox.
Industry veterans noted that Ellen's management style created the perfect environment for predatory behavior to flourish. Her demand for absolute loyalty and secrecy meant that employees were already conditioned to accept inappropriate treatment as normal. The culture of fear she established made reporting misconduct feel impossible, while her public persona made accusations seem unbelievable. Ellen had created a system where abusers could operate freely, while victims remained silenced by both terror and disbelief. Enter Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld, who seized on Ellen's downfall like hungry wolves spotting wounded prey. Rogan, never one to miss an opportunity for brutal honesty, dissected Ellen's fall with surgical precision. He pointed out how audiences had been fooled by a carefully crafted image that bore no resemblance to reality. According to Joe, Ellen's show wasn't entertainment. It was psychological manipulation disguised as daytime television. His analysis went deeper than surface-level criticism, exploring the psychology of how someone could maintain such a convincing facade for nearly 2 decades. Rogan's commentary revealed his fascination with the mechanics of Ellen's deception. He compared her performance to method acting taken to psychopathic extremes, where the boundary between character and reality had completely dissolved. Joe's podcast dissections of Ellen's behavior became legendary among his listeners, who appreciated his willingness to say what everyone was thinking but afraid to voice. His observations about Ellen's forced smile and dead eyes resonated with millions who had sensed something unsettling about her demeanor but couldn't articulate their discomfort. Gutfeld took a different approach, using his razor-sharp wit to expose the absurdity of Ellen's situation. He compared her workplace to a North Korean variety show, all forced smiles and suppressed terror. Greg's commentary highlighted how Ellen's "Be Kind" motto had become the ultimate irony, a slogan that mocked every employee who suffered under her reign. His jokes weren't just funny, they were devastating character assassinations wrapped in comedy gold. Gutfeld understood that humor could be the most effective weapon against manufactured authenticity.
A million times for like, they're gonna find the thing if you don't go away. You gotta have a good run, and then when you have a good run, you step back and you go, okay, I'm still gonna do my thing, but like, I'm not. I mean, there's only a few jobs in entertainment, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of the cancel culture shit is probably these motherfuckers want those jobs.
Ooh.
They're like, how long is this bitch gonna be dancing? I can dance with Hillary Clinton. I could do the Charleston with Henry Kissinger, whatever the fuck she does out there.
The Charleston, is that what it is?
She goes out there to do the Charleston. She's got war criminals. Her and Bush are jumping around. I mean,
that's right. She was buddies with Bush. That was like
she's
one of the
a
first
CIA agent.
Have the choice. They must stay in the hell of Trump. We're out of here. By the way, Walter,
I think we could let the illegal aliens stay if we get enough of Hollywood to self-deport.
yes, I will take 1,000.
You know, exactly.
I'll take 1,000 Venezuelan migrants for one share.
Exactly. If you can get one Hollywood star to leave, you get to stay. Otherwise, it's out.
You know what, though? It's funny. I just want to bring this up to you. You can comment or not.
Yeah.
So she left a celebrity base to go to London, and she's already ensconced with other celebrities. So she's basically still in the same bubble.
She's not going back to London. She's going to Oxfordshire. And as the only person on this set who attended Oxford University.
No, way to drop that
It's true. I can tell you that there is nothing high British Oxford society loves more than a failed and despised American talk show host.
Greg's late-night segments about Ellen became appointment television for viewers hungry for someone to articulate their betrayal. He masterfully deconstructed the psychology of celebrity worship, showing how audiences had been manipulated into loving someone who despised the very people making her success possible. His analysis of Ellen's facial expressions during interviews revealed subtle signs of contempt that audiences had subconsciously detected but never consciously acknowledged. The duo's relentless mockery served a purpose beyond entertainment. They articulated what millions of viewers felt but couldn't express: the sense of betrayal when someone they trusted revealed their true nature. Rogan and Gutfeld didn't just make jokes, they provided catharsis for an audience that felt manipulated by Ellen's performance. Their commentary became the soundtrack to her professional obituary, with each joke serving as another nail in the coffin of her carefully constructed image. What made their takedown so effective was its accuracy. Every joke landed because it exposed real truths about Hollywood's culture of fake kindness and manufactured personas. They weren't punching down at a victim, they were holding a mirror to an industry built on deception. Ellen had spent decades selling authenticity while living a lie, and Rogan and Gutfeld made sure everyone understood the full scope of her hypocrisy. Their collaborative destruction of Ellen's reputation became a master class in how comedy can serve justice when traditional systems fail. The sexual misconduct allegations against Ellen's producers created a legal nightmare that extended far beyond workplace harassment. When executive producer Kevin Lehman and others faced accusations from multiple employees, the potential liability became staggering. Industry lawyers began calculating damages that could reach into the hundreds of millions when factoring in lost wages, emotional distress, and punitive damages across dozens of victims.
People that are like that all the time, it doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to be a bitch, right? You're allowed to be a bitch. You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing. What you're not allowed to do is have a Guantanamo Bay situation in the backstage of your show where everybody's walking around afraid for their life, and it's like Abu Ghraib where they're hooked up to wires and they
Dogs
have like
around them.
Yeah, she's got dogs and hoods. If an intern's late, they have a hood on. I don't support that.
But she's putting this on Trump. Do you think that she's going to be just everybody's going to love her in England?
Especially the jihadis who love the lesbians so much. They're going to love her there. I think she's fleeing for way more than her anger over Trump.
If Trump is truly responsible for Ellen's exodus, shouldn't that go down as his greatest achievement in the last 8? I mean, he should get the Nobel Prize.
He's literally going to have a who's who of left. I mean, the entire 80s music catalog is gone. You got Springsteen, Cher, Madonna. I just don't know why they keep showing pictures of Aaron Rodgers with blonde hair.
The legal implications went beyond individual settlements. The entire production company faced potential criminal liability for creating and maintaining a hostile work environment. Every executive who knew about the misconduct but failed to act became a potential defendant. The show's insurance companies started preparing for the worst-case scenario, a massive payout that could bankrupt even a successful production. Ellen's personal exposure in these cases remained unclear, but legal experts suggested she couldn't escape responsibility entirely. As the show's namesake and executive producer, she had a duty to maintain a safe workplace. Her claims of ignorance about the misconduct rang hollow when former employees described incidents that occurred in her presence. The potential for personal liability created a financial sword hanging over her head. The whispered $100 million figure wasn't just speculation. It represented the real cost of years of alleged abuse and cover-ups. When multiple victims retain high-powered attorneys and media attention ensures maximum exposure, settlement negotiations enter rarefied air. Ellen's legal team was facing the nightmare scenario of defending the indefensible while calculating the cost of making the problem disappear. Ellen's recent exodus to England provided the perfect capstone to her American downfall. She and wife Portia de Rossi purchased property in the scenic Cotswolds, telling friends they were fleeing Trump's America, but industry insiders saw through the political smokescreen immediately. This wasn't about elections, it was about escaping the wreckage of a destroyed reputation and potential legal consequences that could follow her for decades. The timing was too convenient, the explanation too theatrical, and the destination too calculated to be genuine political protest. Sources close to Ellen revealed that the England move had been discussed for months before the election, suggesting that Trump's victory was simply a convenient excuse for plans already in motion. The couple had been quietly liquidating American assets and establishing overseas financial structures that would complicate any future legal actions. Their choice of the Cotswolds wasn't random. The area is known for its privacy, exclusive community of wealthy expatriates, and distance from both American and British media centers. The timing of Ellen's departure raised eyebrows throughout Hollywood. Just as whispers about massive lawsuits reached fever pitch, she conveniently discovered her principled opposition to American politics. Critics pointed out that Ellen had remained silent during far more controversial political periods, only finding her voice when her personal brand was in ruins. The migration looked less like political protest and more like strategic retreat from consequences she could no longer avoid. Her choice of destination also seemed calculated beyond simple privacy concerns. The UK's privacy laws provide stronger protection against media intrusion, while the physical distance creates significant barriers for potential litigants. Ellen's legal team likely advised that fighting American lawsuits from British soil would provide substantial procedural advantages. The move wasn't about political principles, it was about legal strategy disguised as moral outrage. A final performance for an audience that had already stopped believing her act. The reaction from her former Hollywood friends was telling. No A-list celebrities organized farewell parties or posted emotional tributes to Ellen's departure. The silence was deafening from an industry that usually celebrates every minor milestone with elaborate social media campaigns. Ellen's exodus was met with the kind of uncomfortable quiet that accompanies someone overstaying their welcome at a party. Former friends suddenly discovered urgent scheduling conflicts whenever her name appeared on guest lists, while agents stopped returning calls with suspicious consistency. Hollywood's memory is notoriously short, but some falls from grace create permanent scars. Ellen's situation transcended typical celebrity scandals because it involved systematic abuse of vulnerable workers. While other stars have survived worse individual incidents, Ellen's alleged pattern of behavior created an unforgettable stain on her legacy. The industry's response revealed how completely Ellen had been abandoned by her former allies. Celebrities who once competed for appearances on her show now acted as if those relationships never existed. Agents stopped returning calls, studios removed her from development deals, and former friends discovered urgent scheduling conflicts whenever her name appeared on guest lists. Even Ellen's charitable work, once a source of universal praise, became suspect in the wake of the allegations. Critics began questioning whether her philanthropy was genuine kindness or calculated image management. When someone's professional persona is revealed to be entirely fabricated, every aspect of their public life becomes subject to re-examination. The speed of Ellen's fall demonstrated how quickly public opinion can shift in the social media age. One day she was beloved by millions, the next she was a cautionary tale about the dangers of believing celebrity personas. The transformation was so complete that her name became synonymous with workplace toxicity rather than daytime entertainment. Ellen's legacy will forever be defined by the gap between her public image and private behavior. She created one of television's most successful talk shows while allegedly fostering one of entertainment's most hostile work environments. The contradiction wasn't just hypocritical, it was almost pathological in its completeness. The $100 million question isn't whether Ellen will face massive legal liability, it's whether she has the resources to survive it. Her estimated net worth might seem substantial, but defending multiple lawsuits while settling with dozens of victims could prove financially devastating. The woman who once gave away cars to audience members might soon be calculating the cost of her own mistakes. Her attempt to rebrand the narrative through political opposition to Trump fooled no one in Hollywood. Industry veterans understood that Ellen's departure represented admission of guilt disguised as principled protest. You don't abandon a multi-hundred-million-dollar American media empire because of election results. You flee when the legal walls are closing in. The most damaging aspect of Ellen's downfall wasn't the financial cost or professional consequences. It was the complete destruction of her credibility. In an industry built on public trust, Ellen's revealed duplicity made her unemployable. No network would risk association with someone whose name had become toxic to the very audiences they needed to attract. Greg Gutfeld's prediction that Ellen's career was over proved remarkably prescient. She hadn't just been canceled, she had been erased from relevance. The woman who once commanded millions of viewers now struggled to generate interest in her own departure. Her exodus from America was met with collective indifference from the public she had once entertained. The Ellen DeGeneres scandal will be studied for years as a masterclass in how not to build a sustainable media empire. Her downfall proved that authentic kindness cannot be faked indefinitely, and that workplace toxicity will eventually destroy even the most successful careers. The $100 million price tag attached to her alleged misconduct serves as a warning to other entertainment moguls about the true cost of creating hostile work environments. Joe Rogan and Gutfeld's brutal commentary provided the perfect eulogy for Ellen's career. Honest, unforgiving, and devastatingly accurate. They understood that Ellen's story wasn't just about one woman's fall from grace, but about an entire industry's complicity in enabling abusive behavior. Their mockery served as a form of justice for the victims who had been silenced for too long. Ellen's escape to England won't provide the fresh start she desperately needs. In the age of global media, geographical distance cannot create sufficient separation from scandal. Her reputation will follow her across the Atlantic, making any comeback attempt virtually impossible. The woman who once danced her way into America's hearts has waltzed herself out of relevance forever. The final irony of Ellen's career is that she destroyed herself by forgetting her own motto. In failing to be kind to the people who made her success possible, she ensured that kindness would never be extended to her when she needed it most. Her legacy stands as proof that in Hollywood, as in life, authentic behavior ultimately matters more than manufactured charm.